Hello everyone and welcome back to another Space Life Simulator video. In this video I'm doing Smalllands to the Moon and Back round 2. This is the first time I'm ever doing a voiceover, and this is my 12th take, and I already want to get this over and done with. But this is basically the same rocket as the previous one, but I just replaced the Broadsword with 2 grasshoppers, which is 1.5 tons lighter. And the previous rocket I used a docking port to separate the 2 stages, but later on I realized I can just replace it with a fairing, as it weighs 0.05 tons lighter, and since aerodynamics doesn't matter in this, it just doesn't matter. And this mission has a surprise destination, although I kind of already ruined the surprise with the title and the thumbnail. It's Phobos and Deimos, but this is my first destination is obviously to the moon. And once again, I'm just like in the previous video on Mars, I'm using the iron engine, pulsating the iron engine constantly to increase efficiency on the ascent, and doing as low of an ascent profile as possible in order to increase efficiency and to have more fuel at the end. Obviously, I don't actually exactly need to do all that, especially since in the end I'll end up having enough fuel to literally go to Phobos and Deimos, which was something I didn't initially plan, and that is why I ended up doing that mission to Phobos and Deimos, and I don't know how to pronounce their names. That is great. I had initially set the moon as a target, not realizing that my transfer window will not be there when I make another 5 passes at periapsis, burning at periapsis to increase efficiency to my transfer to the moon. So that is why you see that transfer window right there. So later on I just time warped until the transfer window is aligned perfectly with the periapsis, so I can just do one last transfer burn and I'll be on an encounter with the moon. And here I'm just going to set my periapsis to be as low but as high as possible for me to just barely clip the moon with my solar panel. As you might have seen in the previous video, I'll be using the solar panel to land on the moon the entire way. So this just slows me down by about 18 meters per second, enough for a capture orbit around the moon so that I wouldn't just exit its sphere of influence. And those passes, those solar panel landings or whatever, took me quite a few tries, few dozen. It took me like half an hour to actually land on the moon. I'm just making it look very easy because I shortened the video down to be for your comfort. But in reality, this took me quite some time. And as you saw just there, my solar panel actually got stuck inside of the surface of the moon. This lava is right there, but I just extended it and retracted it and it just got out. And just like on Earth, I'll be doing a very steep ascent profile in order to increase efficiency, which I'm very OCD about. I could probably admit to that. I really have to, not just love, I have to actually do efficient everything in Space Flight Simulator. It's a bit of a problem, but I guess it's worth it in the end, as you can see, because later on I'll be going to a surprise destination. A surprise, not surprise destination. Right here I actually got extremely lucky, as the transfer window to intercept Mars's orbit was right on the periapsis of the orbit I just created, which even if I didn't get lucky, I would have just lowered my apoapsis down below the moon's sphere of influence, and I would just wait for a transfer window to intercept Mars's orbit. But I got lucky here and I just stuck with it. And then after doing this, I just waited for a very, very long time. And instead of an encounter with Mars, I got an encounter with Earth, and not just once, but as you'll see just in a moment, twice. So I just decided to actually burn away from Earth's intercept, and because I didn't want to deal with it anymore. Eventually I got an approach that's 43,000 kilometers away, and I decided to use that and just go to Mars. So I lowered my periapsis to around 14 kilometers, and then I air brake down enough for it to be just about where I needed to be for me to encounter Phobos, and then I just time warped until I got an encounter and just did the same exact thing as on the moon, and decrease my periapsis to just above its surface, so I could clip it. And this time, unlike the moon, I don't get captured in an orbit because of its very low gravity, so I just wait in Martian orbit until I get an encounter, and then I just wait for an encounter. And this point I waited for about 2 minutes, just sitting there. It was really boring, so I increased the speed of it for your own pleasure, for your own viewing pleasure. You can't see this, but I cut to the point where there was a transfer window to Deimos from Phobos, his orbit. So I could just burn towards Deimos really easily. I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, but I couldn't be bothered to search it on Google. This time, the velocity in approaching Deimos was fairly low because I'd already slowed down on Phobos, so it was just 50 meters per second. So it's fairly easy for me to slow down and then just wait in orbit for another slowing down. And this time I didn't really know what to do because for some reason it wasn't showing me a transfer window to Earth to intercepting Earth's orbit from Mars's from the periapsis from Mars. So I just time warped to the moment I thought was good enough and just stuck with it. And in the end I had 15 meters per second of delta V left, which is not a lot, but I would have been able to do this more efficiently anyways if I had to, but I didn't need to, since it's enough for me to land on Earth. And after time warping for some time, I got a fairly close encounter with Earth. So again, I got pretty lucky here, but 50 meters per second is still enough for me to fine-tune my orbit, enough for me to be able to land on the Earth anyways, even if it was an approach was several 100,000 kilometers probably. And to top it all off, if landing on the moon and then both of Mars's moons wasn't enough, I landed on the launch pad. So I hope you enjoyed this voiceover. I don't have a very good mic, but I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in my next video in another half a year. Bye!